Hello everyone and welcome to Gierok Farms. In today's video we are going to be talking about the feed here on the dairy. We just finished with morning chores. Dad finished milking. I helped clean up the barn and we just fed all the silages in the dairy barn and we got some hay to move, but we also wanted to talk about our silage pile here in the yard because we've been getting questions about it and we're over halfway through it here now. We just wanted to go over it because it's a bit unique compared to other cattle guys and their silage setup. So we wanted to answer some of them questions.
So the pile is on this slab in front of our barn, right in the middle of our yard. I believe it's like 70 by 40 is what it takes for the tarp to cover it. So the whole width is less than that, of course, but we're already at a point where we're getting onto the gravel because it's easier to build them if they're wider, and we probably will be pouring a little more this next summer to fix that. But I wanted to show is the quality of what we got going on here. Now this year so far, I would say it was less than a half a wheelbarrow worth of waste. We had well over 20 loads of hay. There had to be about 35 loads total with the corn.
Yeah, this pile got put together pretty well this year. If you guys have been watching the channel, you know that last year we put this pile was a bit bigger. We used that conveyor and
it was narrower.
Yeah.
And we had to use the conveyor to get the corn silage on top because we ended up a lot more hay. So the hay, this is third crop hay, which gets done in late August typically. And then of course the corn silage, you're getting close to the middle of September. So what we got here is 2/3 hay and 1/3 corn silage. And that's usually our mix. Now we've been doing this for, since the early 90s I've been doing this. Even where I grew up the valley here, we did a little bit of this in the fall where some third crop was put in with the corn silage and that, and it really makes nice feed. So we don't do TMR, but this can be that way. So what we're doing now is we're breaking it loose and we're shoving it together, and maybe with the Bobcat we do a few dumps, and it's quite mixed. And it's been working.
And something I want to add with breaking it loose, Dad tries to keep the face as flat as possible. The pile isn't big enough to get one of them nice facers. Strategically not just ripping a huge, gouge in it and letting a bunch of air in. That really prolongs your feed quality and allows it to keep for a lot longer if you don't let air into what you've already packed.
So a lot of it's the temperature. So if it's bitter cold in winter, you can get away with a little roughness that way. So typically what I do is one day I'll kind of work on this corner, maybe then the center and then the upper corner. So you're not constantly tearing into, and every time you lift, it does allow air in. Now, other years we have trouble with mold in the corn, and it started a little bit this year, way back, maybe once I was about a week into it, and I got concerned. Here we go, we're gonna start that mold again. And it only goes in maybe 5-6 feet, from what I understand. There's no way of me knowing totally unless you throw up a probe in there and you do all that. But they did do some testing on this pile, so we can just throw that up for you guys that know what all those numbers mean. Right now, as far as our milk's concerned, it's all based around components. Everything is paid by components and how much cheese they can make out of our milk, because our milk goes to a cheese plant. It's not so much the volume. If you got very high components and even though your volume isn't really high, you can have a milk check that looks just as good.
And for components that matter, I think your silage tested higher on protein this year compared to last year.
Once you do this enough, you can tell by just looking and observing, and it being that we're doing a lot of handwork trying to get this feed to the cows, we get you get a real good feel for it from year to year. So I'll talk a little bit how we covered it. We got 2 tarps. So what I did is bought a 40 by 150, and then when we had the hay done, we put that over, of course, and then it was roughly, 3 weeks later, we took that off to put the corn on, and then whatever was left of that same roll we put on again, because it don't matter how careful you are. If you crawl under this thing after you got it off, you could see a few pinholes in that, and any pinhole, that's just like a can of fruit that you would open, and you can never, once you let air in. So anyway, we got that, and then we use this here green, and they call that's from Bagman. You guys can look that up, but that's almost like a mesh. That's not a seal or anything, but that's more because we got the dog and the cats and things like that.
And it's added weight too. I think it hugs the pile a bit more than a tire does.
Their whole sales pitch is more that, they've had these down in places where they had tornadoes go through, and then the wind can't, because it is kind of screened, it can't grab it. But yeah, it helps a lot. And so what I kept doing is, as I'm feeding, I keep carrying the tires back further. So it's very concentrated. And we're at the verge now, so what are we, late November? So we started this early October. I think it was like October 5th. I usually put it in my calendar so I can watch what my components do, And we closed the silo, so the silo's down like 3 doors, and I put a tarp on this feed in there and threw some silage on top of it to get that. That won't get opened up now until our first crop hay in the spring, so it will probably be, could be as late as mid-June, but probably early June. Anyway, so this, I would think, from the way we're going right now, I'm gonna get at least till Christmas. I'm for sure thinking by the first of the year we'll be down there. So what I'm gonna do down there is, we still got a few dry cows grazing yet, but eventually we're gonna get that opened up and start getting into it for the dry cows and heifers. So we're in there a little ways. And then usually before this pile's completely gone, I do try to mix it a little bit, maybe just for a few days to get the transition. It's probably not a bad idea for your cows anyway. Now that's first crop. It was put together good, but the hay was made late. So I'm guessing the protein's going to be a little lower.
That's what I was going to say, that the protein's probably lower on that. But third crop hay was really, any late crop hay this year was really good.
Yeah, we did put a little bit of new seeding third crop in there, which, you know, it's not a lot, but it's one good pickle in that sandwich. I think the big thing is the mold. So when we build them too, when we lay that bead of silage down, key is to get that dual and everything and hang over that and get that packed and drive really, really slow. Let the tractor do the packing. And then the same thing on the upper edge. And the center you can always get because your tractor straddles that anyway. And then as you build, you have to keep laddering back, of course, because it gets steep. And here we're roughly, I don't know, we could be 6 feet here in the middle. And the pile down there could be 12 in the middle. So you got to be careful. But we've been doing this forever. And I love the efficiency of it. Right now we're just using wheelbarrows, use our skid steer. We can load 3 instantly. The one thing a lot of you viewers probably don't realize is this camera doesn't do it justice, but there's not a lot of room in this yard. We're very close to the barn here. It's a little bit of a slope in here and stuff to get some, you know, like feed wagon in here and stuff. I think we've been throwing it around. Feed carts in the barn too. The alleys are very narrow. And then we do feed baled hay, so it makes it a little difficult. We may some days try to explore some of that. But no matter how we look at it, somehow the feed needs to get from the pile to the feed carts, somehow to the cow. And right now the wheelbarrows they're actually a pretty simple deal. And the doors, the barn's only 80 feet long, and the door's not quite in the middle, but it's, you know, so it does. Yeah. It makes sense for us right now.
On that point, if you guys got any recommendations or ideas for small setups like that, let us know down in the comments of how we can modernize that.
My brother's been using feed carts, and he's got his share of mechanical issues with it, but his yard's a little different too, as far as getting into barn and that. So once we get that other pile opened up, we might kind of do the same thing. But right now, I would say this is, you know, that we had comments about you need to do silos, you need to do bags to get quality. It can work with the piles too, but it's all about the way you build them and the management of feeding out of them. So that's key.
There you go. There's a little answer to all them questions about the silage. Now we got to move on to hay. We got some hay to move to make some room for the rest of the heifers and the dry cows.
We had what? Over 2,000 bales stacked up in here. We've got something like 24 head here. Most of them are bred now. And there's a bunch of dry cows. You don't know how much hay you're gonna need. If the summer got dry, this would have all been gone. So what we're gonna need here, because we're talking cold weather and snow, we're gonna need to make more room for the cattle. The hay's gotta get moved one way or the other, whether we carry it and throw it over the bunk edge and feed it, or we put it in the trailers. And the plan is to put it in the machine shed. We got several trailers, and then we just bring it up to the manger here as we need it, you know, after the snow goes through or things like that. And really, it's kind of a horse apiece how we do this. But
yeah, what we got going on here is a big reason that round baler showed up along with the corn stalks as well, is that when we do get to the back, instead of handling everything by hand again, you know, twice now.
And the other shed too, it's full too. So really, it's a great thing. We got plenty of feed. It's better than the other way, having your bins empty.
And I was telling these guys yesterday during the deer hunting video that grazing season's another late season, so we've taken advantage of it, and we got plenty of hay, and so we haven't had to feed it out. But now we got to move it. Should have made more round bales.
I like that. Put the apron on, and the wood. You gotta be careful with the wood because it starts cooking stuff. You clean off the back, you know, what you can kind of reach, and then you run it slow. I ended up breaking it once. Book something. When we hauled junk one time.
That's one wagon full. That'll be nice because that wagon is that manure spreader we revitalized. So unloading that one, we can just hook the PTO up and there you go, you got a pile. Shed there, which is kind of nice. I got those 11 will eat more than 14 of those guys. So what, that group out there? They're on a swap. Yeah, they're like, there's something kind of operation like this is pretty ordinary. Second wagon is loaded up, and this is a big one. That's a tall load of hay there. Okay, we got one more wagon and then we'll be done. Feet, 5 feet, a little more, right there. I think that Talon one makes more out of boards. We got quite a few in there. Boards. We just make the other stuff out of the 2x. Alright, we got the final load moved for the day. Now we're gonna close up these gates and let those heifers have their pen back. Come on, girl. All right, that is going to be it for the video. Thank you all for sticking to the end. If you too have any comments and questions about our feed setup, let us know down below. Keep in mind, we're reading all your comments. Even if we don't respond, we try to take time in videos to respond to them like we did today. So thank you all for the support. Remember, check out GierokFarms.com. Get yourself some merch if you haven't already. And for those of you that have, we really appreciate it. Thanks for being part of the journey. But that's going to be it. And we will see you all next time. Also, remember to tell your friends about us. Share the video with people who you think would enjoy it as well.